DJ PK, we're joined now by Brian Howell, Colorado Buffalo's beat writer for the Buff Zone and the Boulder Daily Camera. Brian, good morning. Welcome back to the show. Thanks for joining us again.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Colorado, we are impressed. You wouldn't know it looking at the record right away, 3-4, but then you see the teams they play, just a steady diet. I mean, they actually played two undefeated teams, a 6-1 team, a 5-2. I mean, it's just very impressive. And here comes another 5-2 team with the Utes. But I have noticed the two road games weren't particularly competitive. They have had 5 home games. So what do you think about the Buffs going on the road?
Yeah, I mean, the one road game against TCU is a little deceptive in that, TCU scored a touchdown with like 20 seconds left to kind of pad that one. It was I think it was a tie game in the fourth quarter. So it was really just a Houston game. But certainly the Buffs are different away from home than they are on the road. And, I mean, they're going to have to play probably their best game of the year and hope that Utah does not play its best game of the year. They're going to need some things to go their game.
How much have they settled down as a team now that Salter, was in and out of the lineup early and it seems like he's the guy? I think that's got to help them in terms of stability, maybe make them a little more competitive.
Yeah, for sure. And, he was in and out of the lineup because they weren't real happy with him as a leader, and they were trying to kind of get him to step up as a leader, and that's why he was sat down for a little bit, and I think he got that message and has started to get into a groove a little bit. And so that's certainly what they needed offensively, was to get that quarterback solidified. And they're certainly not an offensive juggernaut, but they found a rhythm, and they looked pretty solid against Iowa State. So they're hoping they can take that momentum into Utah.
These two guys can tell you that when I get something and I get stuck on it, I really do get stuck on it. And this week what I'm stuck on is Colorado gives up 188 yards per game on the ground. That seems like an enormous number. And Utah's borderline moving into service academy territory here. They're rushing for 245 yards. They are fully committed to a run game. And Kyle's always loved the run, but man, they've doubled down on it with a new offensive coordinator. And I see that even in the win over Iowa State, which is an impressive win, Iowa State ran for 236 yards. Is Utah going to run the ball at will? Is this just a massive mismatch?
Yeah. If you've noticed it, I'm sure Kyle Whittingham has too. That's the part of this matchup that I really don't like for the Buffs, is that they just haven't been great against the run, and a lot of it has been running quarterbacks, but Utah's got that. And a couple of running backs have really burned them. I mean, it was Iowa State's number 2 running back, Abu Sama, that ran for 177 yards against them a couple weeks ago. So, yeah, they've been a little banged up front. They're getting some guys back. That'll help. But it hasn't been great defensively this year. They've made some key stops at times, but they do give up big chunk plays.
No Travis Hunter, obviously, and they had some other good receivers along with that, for sure. You look at a kid like Horn and all that. But I think that they've got, I recognize maybe not the top level, but I think they got some depth there. How well do you think they'll be able to move the ball through the air?
Yeah, they've been interesting through the air, and they've got so much talent at receiver, but they haven't really gotten those guys, or it took a little while to get them on track. And Salter's kind of settled in on 2 guys. I mean, Omarion Miller, Joseph Williams have been his targets recently, and you'll see a Sincere Brown, who's 6'5" with a ton of speed. He's got the potential to have a breakout game, but it's typically Omarion Miller and Joseph Williams that he's settled on. So it'll be interesting to see if they can get others involved, because they do have plenty of others that are capable. And if they get those others involved, I think that's going to be a real key for them to be able to put up some passing yards this week.
One phrase to live by with Kyle Whittingham: show no weakness. He loves to say stuff like that. So when he says something that is a weakness for his team, it always catches my ear. And what he said at his press conference this week is, we haven't been as good against the run. I think the reason is the QB run game. There are some quarterbacks who've really hurt us, and we're facing another guy who can run the ball this week. Salter is pushing not 300 yards, but he's getting there, and he's scored 5 touchdowns. Is he a guy who 3rd and 5 can get you 7 and move the chains on a pretty regular basis? Because that seems to be the Utes' Achilles heel.
Yeah, absolutely. He's that running quarterback that the Buffs have seen enough of on the other side over these years that we've all wondered, can the Buffs get one of those guys? And he is one of those guys. So, he rushed for 1,000 yards a couple years ago at Liberty, so he's very talented. He can get you those 5 yards in that 3rd and 5. He can also pick up 25, 30 on a scramble. So he's a pretty good runner. I think he's got their best individual game of the year with 86 yards against Wyoming. So he's capable of pushing a 100-yard game at some point.
They start off 0-3 in conference. Obviously, you lose your 3 games there, but they had a win against Wyoming spliced in there. So they had lost 3 out of 4, lost 2 in a row, although the BYU game obviously was very close, and the TCU game, as you said that. So when I had them figured left for dead, they managed to beat Iowa State. And that was a very impressive win. I know there was a controversial non-pass interference in the end zone and all that stuff. But sucks for Iowa State. They didn't get the call, and the Buffs win that game. So have they turned the corner in terms of building momentum? Because when I thought they were left for dead, they managed to win.
Yeah, they think so. They're hoping so. And that was really the narrative around this team. Going into Iowa State, it was if they didn't win that game, the season was probably going to crumble because you lose that and go into the bye 2-5. And come out of it having to go to Salt Lake City, you're probably 2-6, and at that point, that turnaround doesn't look likely. But I think that they've at least saved their season for now by beating that game. And I think it takes pressure off of them needing to win in Salt Lake City. Obviously, you want to, and they're capable of it, but they've got a November coming up that's very winnable, all 4 games. And so I think that Iowa State game kind of saved their season a little bit. It also clicked some things for them. Those 2 weeks in a row, BYU and TCU, it was first time in program history that back-to-back games they had 14-point leads and lost the game. So they felt like they have a couple of missed opportunities that they've coughed up, and they felt like they finished the game against Iowa State finally. So they're hoping that momentum from that carries over into these last 5 games.
Love him or hate him, America cannot keep their eyes off of Deion Sanders. And for all of his celebrity, everybody's human at the end of the day, and he's had a couple of very serious health crises here in the last year. And I don't think crises is too strong a word. Does it feel like he's the guy long term? Is he up to it physically? Do you have a feel for what the future might hold, or health is one of those tricky things and nobody knows, and we'll find out when we get to that day?
I go back and forth all the time on what I think he's going to do. All along when he was hired, I thought that was a 2-year deal, and once his sons were gone, he was going to be gone. So I was a little bit surprised he's still here this year. But he's been talking recently about he can't wait for spring ball with some of the young kids they have, and so he's talking a lot about future. And certainly with the health things, you have to worry about him. He's 58, and those are very serious health things he's had in recent years. And but he's a guy that he doesn't let it stop him. The last one, he had a procedure on a Tuesday night to relieve some blood clots, and he was at practice Wednesday morning, just riding around on a Segway. And I think that inspired that team going into that Iowa State game. But you never know with him. I could see this being the last 5 games coming up with him. I could see him being here another 3-4 years. So I think anything's on the table with him, to be honest with you.
A lot of star power on that coaching staff in terms of NFL accomplishment. How much is that helping in terms of recruiting and then on-the-field coaching in the moment?
Well, I think we still need to see it recruiting-wise. Marshall Faulk obviously is a running back coach, and we need to see it because they didn't bring in a whole lot running back-wise, and Warren Sapp's there on the defensive line, and they had a couple good transfers. Where we're seeing it, though, is on the field. That running back room, Marshall Faulk to me has done wonders with kind of a patch 'em up running back room. They're not a Utah running the ball, but they're way better than they've been the last 2 years, and I give Marshall Faulk a lot of credit for that. And that defensive line, although they struggle against the run, they're salty at times, and they take on that Warren Sapp attitude.
BYU and Cincinnati are unbeaten in conference play. ASU, Texas Tech, and Houston have one loss. Can you figure out who's going to be in the Big 12 title game, or you just throw up your hands and just sit back and watch the games every week?
Yeah, pretty much. Because going into last week, I thought, well, no one's going to touch Texas Tech, so that's one spot, and then they lose. So you never know with the Big 12. I still think Texas Tech is going to skate through the rest of the way and get there. That second team, we'll see. I mean, BYU certainly is capable, but I'm still not sold that they're that good. I think they're good, but I've seen them. I mean, they barely got by in Boulder. They barely got by in Tucson, and so I feel like they're going to get hit a couple times and lose a couple games. So I put Texas Tech in one spot. I think Utah can get there. I think there's 5 or 6 teams that can get there in that other spot.
Brian, we appreciate the time as always. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the game.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Brian Howell, Colorado Buffaloes beat writer for the Buff Zone and the Boulder Daily Camera. DJ and PK, you hear that, PK, and I think he hit on an important point there with the Cougars. Their record is great. The 2 conference games were pretty tight, and I think we all think these next 3 road games, those opponents are better than the 2 teams they struggled with. It comes back to what you brought up with Kevin Graham. Can they win 2 out of these 3 road games? Because 1 out of 3, you're at the mercy of the tiebreaker. 2 out of 3, you're probably punching your ticket to the conference title game. And that assumes you take care of TCU at home and UCF at home.
Yeah, that's a big assumption, and I know you're making it for argument's sake there rather than literally thinking, oh, that'll be a breeze. I understand your point. Yeah, and it's funny, they're 7-0, but as Brian said, well, they're still 7-0.
Yep.
And I think that's the way a lot of people are looking at them is that, okay, you're 7-0, but are you really, really that good? And the great thing about it is they've got opportunities to prove it. And if they went 4-1 in that 5-game stretch, which I guess you can put Arizona and so go 5-1 and certainly the 5 toughest games you've had in a row, I believe, and who knows when, if not ever. And if you want to put Arizona in there, and if they go 5-1, that's like I was talking about with Walker Kessler. That is answering questions as far as are they that good. I believe if they go 5-1, the answer is yes, they are that good because that is a tough run to do, and we got to get beyond the freshman quarterback and all that stuff because it's not like, well, you have a freshman quarterback, so we'll give you 4 points to start the game. It just doesn't work that way, obviously. And so with that in mind, the games are there, and each week is a proving test. And plus, too, you're ranked, and, there may not be that Mountain West whack lore that they had and the fan bases, how it's the biggest game when they went to Albuquerque, when they went to Laramie, when they went to San Diego, yada, yada. But I think there's enough out there that people know of BYU football. And so when you go into these places like Ames, I think the fans are sophisticated enough. They don't have the long-standing animosity for sure, but they have the sophistication to know, okay, this is a good team. This is a good football program. It's one of those name brands out west. And with that in mind, that trickles down to the players. And so you're going to get a great test from these guys, particularly with Iowa State. They had high hopes.
They did. They were 5-0.
Yeah. And but even going into the season, and now you got a couple of losses there. So now you got teams with an edge. That's why if they come out of this thing, they get to about 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, and they're 8-0. That might be to that point, still plenty of work to do, but that might be the Kalani Sitake's crowning achievement in his 10 years. Because I don't think anybody saw it coming. And to get to that point, if they should get this win, that's just huge for the program. It's another step, another proving point. And then, as we were talking earlier, it does buy you a little buffer. You could most likely suffer a loss. It's hard for me to imagine an 8-1 team not being in the conference final. I suppose it could happen with some tiebreakers, but I think 8-1 is going to get you in, and that would be really cool. What a level of accomplishment that would be. That just wipes away the 5-7 season that they had a couple years ago, thinking, all right, BYU, man, they are building something big time, and they've got the resources and they got the money and all that stuff. And, man, the next couple of weeks, not necessarily change the outlook, but really solidify the outlook.
You know, you say you're 7-0. How good are you really? I think that's what I say about most of these teams. There's only 6 undefeated teams, but I think that's what I say about most of them. Navy's undefeated, but they haven't really gotten to their toughest tests. They're going to have Notre Dame and South Florida back-to-back. I expect they get beat. A&M, like BYU, has won a couple of close road games, 1 opponent at Notre Dame, 3 at Arkansas. But they got 2 ranked opponents on the road the next 2 weeks, at LSU, at Missouri. I wouldn't think they make it through that. Georgia Tech will probably sail along for a while because I think they've got some easy games in the ACC, but they have 5-2 Pitt and then Georgia back-to-back to end the season. I expect they stumble there. The only teams that'll probably get through it, Ohio State and Indiana, just don't have that tough a schedule and don't have big games. I mean, Ohio State, Penn State looked like a big game, but Penn State's season, and they whacked their coach. So,
yeah, I think Michigan's a big game, though.
Michigan, the emotion, the rivalry game, and Michigan's wrecked them as recently as last year.
It's one of the legendary rivalries in the game of college football. And thankfully, it doesn't look like it's ever going to go away.
Right. And Indiana, Penn State was the big game left on their schedule. Maryland's 4-3. Maybe a red-hot UCLA team this year will end up being their best test down the stretch. You got 2 bottom feeders at the end. So I would think Indiana and Ohio State, I can see them getting undefeated. The other 4 teams, you're having good years, and you could still have a good year. You could still have a great year. But an unbeaten year, yeah, I would pick against that. You always say you'll never pick a team 12-0. Even now, there's 4 of these teams that are unbeaten. I'm like, man, making it to the end of November with the schedule you've got, I don't see it.
I think Indiana, and not them individually, but the conference as a whole, is the most overinflated conference that we have.
The Big Ten. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of superpowers at the top, and Ohio State is always a superpower. It's the unusual when they're not. It's the absolute usual when they are. But we're looking at that conference as 3 teams. Yeah, I still got to put Oregon in there, and I realize Indiana beat
Oregon.
And good for them in Eugene. Yeah. I mean, that's, I would assume, the best win that program's ever had. But that conference, in terms of depth, doesn't really do a whole lot for me because Wisconsin's down this year, Penn State's down, Michigan, I'm not really sure what they are. Sometimes look really good, other times no. SC, what do you got there? They had a couple of big games that they lost. But you know, they're tough depending on a given week. So I suppose I could put them in there, and I think maybe when I was saying Big Ten might be overinflated, I was ignoring SC because it's hard for me to grasp that they're in the Big Ten, but yet they are. So they're a decent team for sure. It's just that they have the argument of doing less with more than most teams in college football, and then they just haven't adapted to life on the road in this conference, which nobody feels sorry for them. In fact, I think most folks feel gleeful that they are having those struggles.
Go ahead, complain about the road one more time. So I can say one more time, well, you're the one who took the money and busted up the league.
Yeah, it's like it's karma coming back to haunt you to an extent. So I think we all enjoy it in terms of their struggles away from the Coliseum. It's particularly when they have to go to these places that they don't normally go as a program, and that's a lot of fun. But yet the league still gets the benefit of the doubt, and as you were talking earlier, the Big 12 has to prove it, and then prove it again.
Yep.
And Yormark, that's what he's talking about when it comes to at-large bids and so forth, or automatic bids into the playoff. He's about one. That's been his message consistently. It was his message this past week during basketball media days, is earn it on the field. On the court's a different story because they're already there and they got so many bids that are available anyway. But he's about earning it on the field. And that seems to be what their lot in life is. They're going to have to earn it on the field.
Well,
and when they get to the playoff, have their teams do well. So it's like I've always said, the NCAA, once you establish a reputation conference-wise, the committee seems to just default back to that all the time.
And I think they do that in basketball because they have earned it on the field, because they have had so many Elite Eight and Final Four teams and so many teams in the title game and champions along the way. And so there you go. They've earned it on the field. And ASU came really close to giving the league a really good win. Beating Texas, I think, would have helped. I mean, it's the thing that's got to happen year after year, though. But that's the first year of the 12-team bracket. It does have to happen.
Yeah, I don't think it set them back. I mean, Jordan Tyson didn't play and all that stuff.
It didn't, but it didn't advance them. It's like you'd have to stack up a lot of those wins, and that could have been the first one. But you're right.
It didn't advance them, but I don't think it set them back, is what I stand by my statement.
Yeah. All right, DJ and PK, when we come back, everything you missed in this show will get you up to speed next.